lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and I am back talking some more CrossGen. This time, the topic of discussion is Sojourn by Ron Marz, Greg Land, Garachi, and Cesar Rodriguez. I'm going to be talking about the prequel and the first 6 issues of this run. This, I have to say, was probably top 3 favorite titles from CrossGen when it was coming out. It came out at the perfect time. It was right when Lord of the Rings was super popular and was coming out in the movie theaters, so it hit all those marks for me in terms of what I wanted after leaving the movie theater and watching Lord of the Rings. I wanted stuff set with fantasy. I wanted orcs. I mean, they're trolls in here. They're not called orcs, but this fantasy genre. You know, it was just such a fun one. I was a fan of Ron Marz. Obviously, he'd already been writing a bunch of stuff at CrossGen. I liked his DC stuff. Greg Land coming over, you know, I loved him on Nightwing. That was where I first discovered his stuff. It was just a match made in heaven. Plus, you know, you have Arwyn, who's an archer, and I'm a sucker for archer characters. Green Arrow, Hawkeye, and so you know, having a female archer was really cool to see. We're introduced by Mordath, right? He's the warlord. He put the 5 lands to the torch and sword, conquering nearly all of the world of Quinn. And kind of reminds you of Sauron, right? From Lord of the Rings when he overtook everything. But he's the only human with an army of trolls. So he has been kind of abandoned by humanity, I guess would be the perfect way to say it. You know, he's torturing this guy, wondering, you know, where did he come from? Who is this warrior? And the prisoners nowhere. He came from nowhere and gathered us to him and then chased you and your trolls back to your hole like rats. And he's pissed. He's like, where did this fucking dude come from? Who is he? You know, he's kind of showing like, it's a little bit of a weakness. He's showing fear because this mysterious warrior has come and is defying him and has united the 5 lands against Mordath and his army of trolls. He is going to see, you know, once the 5 lands shook with our advances, now we hide behind walls, right? So he's come down to his last stronghold, and we see one of the races of the 5 lands, you know, they have wings, and each land has its own kind of unique design, and you'll see that throughout in the Sojourn ongoing. And so he's like looking for this guy. Who is this guy that's attacking him? Who brings this army against him? Has them fetch his sword, and he doesn't even care. He's like, come, I'll take all you on. Then he gets attacked by what? An arrow plunges through the barricade and goes or spear plunges straight through him, and Mordath doesn't even care. He's going to battle, and we see the army, and we see this mysterious warrior on his horse pulling the arrow back and shoots it, and it lights on fire, and Mordath can feel something coming, and it blows up the wall in his castle, and Mordath is left, you know, with his bloody axe. He stands, face him, show yourself, he says, and it's this mysterious warrior named Aiden. Everyone's telling him, slay him, let us cut him down. No, enough blood's been spilled, and he holds the army back, and he's like, my army's victorious, yours is no more. Let's end this while you still live. And he turns his back on him, and Mordath's not having it, and you see the power in Aiden. He takes that arrow, he says this is an end, and he shoots him straight through the chest and takes Mordath down, pulls the arrow from him and says he's no more. Everybody wants Aiden to become king, and he says no, I don't want to lead anymore. And there's going to be a mystery that surrounds Aiden that, you know, takes place throughout this run that was ended abruptly, which I've mentioned in plenty of episodes at this point on the CrossGen stuff about how a lot of these titles just ended without really getting to have a natural conclusion. And so as Aiden takes this arrow that he pulls from Mordath's chest that ended the war, you know, he says, let it be broken into 5 fragments for the 5 lands. Separately, they're mere pieces, but joined in a single purpose, they can accomplish much. If a threat dire enough to unite the 5 lands arises, I will return to you. And so he bids farewell, he goes on his horse, and that's it. And then we see 2 mysteriously shrouded characters in cloaks, orange eyes. You know the deal. They've been in every first issue, they're the ones that grant the power of the sigil to the sigil bearers on each world. And they go up to Mordath. And they're like, they're both at odds. Like, the previous sigil bearers were at least, you at least accepted my input. This time you seem to determined to ignore my advice. What you propose could have dire consequences. Mordath was a source of great evil. Do you think being dead for 3 centuries will have improved his mood? He could become a difficulty in the greater scheme. Reconsider, please. And nope, Mordath threw this world into conflict when he lived. He'll do the same when he's brought back. So he's been dead for 300 years, and then we see him granted the sigil and see the light spark within him. So we get some preview pages from the next issue, but since we are going through it, we don't need to do that. We'll just flip straight into issue 1, where we are going to meet Arwyn, and we see the troll. Mordath has been back, and he's once again stands on the brink of conquering all the 5 lands. As this troll is about to attack this little girl, we see Arwyn come in. And something I didn't really say before, I love the texture that we get, whether it's the Drew Garachi's ink line or Greg Land, but you really feel the texture of the weave in this fabric and the leather and the design and on the stone. Really fantastic work. And Arwyn has saved this little girl. She goes to her dad. She's running back to save her daughter and husband, and sees her town on fire. The trolls fell upon it without warning, sweeping into the city like a tide. I can't imagine she was prepared for what she found. So the narrator is somebody that we haven't even been introduced yet. And we see her town on fire, and she has now, we're going to see, lost her daughter and husband, and this troll attacks her, and she grabs her bow and shoots him right in the chest. And this is heart-wrenching too. She comes upon her husband that's dead. Her daughter is gone, and all she's left with is Krieg, her dog, and her entire town is up in smoke. And this is where we get this fantastic panel of 4 pages where she's like, Mordath, I'm going to kill Mordath. And this sets her on her path for the entirety of this series, and she wants revenge. And then what's interesting is we see the sigil all in red, because he's that fucking evil that there is no light. So where normally a sigil's red and yellow, there's the the balance of good and evil, the balance of dark and light. Mordath has none of that. And so he says, finally, after 3 centuries, the 5 lands are mine. And we just see terrifying zombie looking guy. This fucking sigil just adorns his entire skull. He lights up with red power. This is another great cover. I mean, you can see the tears running down her face because she's lost everything. We get this flashback of what she imagines happened with her husband and daughter as they were attacked by this troll army, and she wakes up from this nightmare and she's gonna go kill Mordath. She's gonna storm this castle, and it's pretty fucking nuts. And a prisoner, his name is Hanan of Ankara, which is one of the 5 lands, and he's gonna show the people of Quinn what happens when there's a rebellion. And he's gonna kill this dude and hang him on his fucking gates. Just a ruthless fucking guy. And then this too, where Aiden's arrow killed him, and the way the flesh just fucking disintegrated from his, it's just crazy. He's alive, but he's dead. And he says, he's like, there's nothing for me save the conquest and domination of this world. And this, dude, the way he melts the flesh from his face, burns him alive, and he's gonna hang. Like I said, he's gonna hang him from the gates. Arwyn is on her way, takes out some trolls, and is going to storm the castle. And crazy, this is the first. I think this is the first book where the hero or heroine of the title isn't a sigil bearer, and that the sigil bearer is the villain of the book. So she makes her way into this castle, is about to just fucking cock that arrow back. She shoots it, and he feels it behind, and he's just so taken aback that she was able to break in, says to kill her. And then we see somebody grab this mysterious bow, and as you can see, if you remember from the prequel issue, that's Aiden's bow, and it's taken off of this wall. Who grabs it? And then she's trapped in this dungeon, and we meet Gareth, who is going to be, kind of, I don't want to say her sidekick, but, her partner in crime throughout this. And they're both chained. He's going to figure out a way to get out of there. But Mordath comes in, and you're wondering why you're still alive, I bet. And she's pissed. You killed my family. You burned my city. And he doesn't care. He's like, I don't even know who you are. You crept into my castle truly believing you could kill me. Such an audacious act. I died once. It's not an experience I intend to repeat. And, she's going to use her as a lesson, about what happens when somebody thinks they're bold enough to try to kill him. And you'll be the last bit of defiance on Quinn, and she just spits right in his face. Tells the trolls they could kill and eat her dog. And she's just, all she's thinking about is, getting revenge for her husband and daughter. And this is where we're going to see that she's going to be able to break out, because while Gareth was able to sneak the key, he couldn't reach his wrist, but he can reach over and unlock her, which in turn will enable her to unlock his thing. Grabs the fire poker, and they make their way out. And while he's like, we just gotta be quiet and wait till they pass so they can get out, she doesn't care. She wants revenge. She goes straight after these trolls, and he's got no choice. He's got to help defend her. So she grabs the bow, even though he wanted to take it, and she's like, it'll do more good in my hands than it would in yours. And again, we get some cool fight with the trolls. He grabs a sword, and they make their way out of the castle and find themselves at the top of this tower. How are they going to get out? Well, we have this mysterious character who kind of resembles the person that grabbed that bow and arrow, and she is going to help them escape. Mordath is pissed. He's like, what happened? How did you let the prisoners get out? And Bor, as the captain of his guard, I really dig, the way Greg Land fucking draws these trolls. I think of them as orcs, but the armaments, I love how they all bear the red sigil, because that's now the crest that has become the symbol of his reign of terror. We see this mysterious woman with her glowing staff. She's got orange eyes, so that's a hint. She helps them escape, and we learn her name is Neven. Gareth obviously asking questions like, who are you? He's like, oh, all in good time, taking the name Neven. Basically sets Arwyn on this path of like, I need you. I have an interest in seeing Mordath opposed. My role is only to orchestrate, not participate. And, everyone knows the tale of how Mordath died, but I can tell you how he came to live again. Gives the lowdown, and I think this is a pretty cool scene too of how Mordath comes back alive, and you see at first it's red and yellow, equal forces in eternal opposition, but Mordath was a creature of utterly malign intent. The sheer force of his sinister nature perverted his sigil's balance, turning its entirety as crimson as the blood spilled by his marauding armies. And then we see him brought back to life, and he goes right back to it. He wants to conquer the Five Lands. And all Gareth wants to do is get out. Arwyn still wants her revenge, so we see the bow and arrow is presented to Arwyn, and it's Aiden's bow. Now it's yours. And we see the troll army is hot on their heels. And the trolls are going through the town, searching for them, not realizing that like Neven transported them so far away that they didn't have to travel by foot. So Bor and the trolls are hunting him down. Neven has now given Arwyn this path of like, you have to gather the 5 pieces to bring Aiden back. And Gareth's like, well, if she didn't want it, I'll take it. And Neven's like, no, it has to be her. It's been decided. And who decided it? Neven did. Arwyn's, is very skeptical. You haven't given us any proof. And Krieg senses something coming. All Mordath dreams of is conquest and revenge, right? So he's rebuilt his armies, rebuilt his fortress. We get talking about how he conquered each of the 5 lands. And only there has to be someone that can stop him. Again, she doesn't even want to do this quest of gathering these 5 fragments. And the only way to defeat Mordath is to summon Aiden. She's like, that's nuts. He lived 300 years ago. He's dead. And she has a good point. Mordath died 300 years ago, but he's alive. The trolls have found them. They quickly go to battle, and Neven just disappears. And so Gareth grabs this, this bow and arrow, and she realizes, oh shit, you're Gareth? That Gareth the bowman? He's one of the best archers in all of Quinn. So I think it's funny that like he wanted that bow and arrow, but he doesn't get chosen. So why would Arwyn get chosen of all people? And so as we get to the last issue of this video, we see Arwyn grab the bow, an arrow, and we see that any arrow that she shoots off is going to have this glowing light. It has power. So why does it have power? It's something you'll learn later on in the series. And, you know, they make it down into this dungeon and they get trapped there. And where else are they going to go? They got to go through this, basically this sewer and this that was the runoff for the castle. And it's disgusting. They kick down this bar and they have no other choice but to jump into the water. So now Gareth is on this path with her. This pose by Arwyn that's, you know, obviously showing her beauty was the whole point of that, and showing how and then we see how Krieg has made it. She's not sure what comes next, but they have to go someplace first. She takes her wedding ring and she buries it back in her town, and she's like, okay. And as she's doing that, Neven comes back. So she's like, okay, so you're only here when it suits you, and you're not here when we needed your help. So she accepts the role. She's going to go on her quest. Gareth says, you know, I'll tag along with you. And then as we end it, we flash onto this island, and you can see the sigil formed within this landmass, which is super interesting. And we see Aiden, and he's talking with Neven. He's like, oh, so you're back again. Who are you? Why do you trouble me? Here I'm called Neven, which makes you believe, like, so she's something else on other planets, right? Or on other worlds. He says, you know, mysteries no longer intrigue me. I will not become involved. And you know, Nevin's like, well, you at least observe Arwyn then, because this is only the beginning. And it is. It's the beginning of a freaking awesome adventure. This issue 7 is a great one shot that, you know, Stuart Immonen is on art on that, and focuses mostly on Mordath. That is my quick overview of the beginning of Sojourn, the prequel, the first 6 issues. Fantastic series. I know Marvel has been they've already announced the Mystic Omnibus that they did. Sigil got an Omnibus collection. I'm sure they're probably going to collect all of it. Will they do more CrossGen comics? I wish they would. Could they at least, you know, let the original creators finish off their series in a more satisfying way? I wish they do that, but I highly doubt it'll happen. But I still hold out hope. And for now, I can still go back and read these awesome CrossGen comics. Marz, Greg Land, fantastic series. Can't recommend it enough. If you can find these books, do it. Get them on the cheap. They're not hard to find. And while you're at it, check out the rest of the CrossGen playlist that's on the channel. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid drops. And on that note, I'm out.